Okay, so let's start right here. The first thing we gotta do is get rid of that 64. We're gonna move it to the other side. So to do that, we gotta do the opposite. It's currently subtracting 64, so we gotta add 64 to each side. That'll cancel. I have x squared equals 64. Then we gotta take the square root on each side to get the x by itself. That'll cancel off. And I'll have x is equal to, gotta do the positive and negative version. So it's plus or minus 8 because the square root of 64 is 8. I gotta do positive and negative. Okay, so over here, we gotta do the same thing. We gotta isolate x, and in this case, we have a binomial that's squared. So we gotta work back to that before we take the square root. I'm gonna add 5 to each side to cancel that out. And we're left with quantity of x plus 10 squared is equal to 16. I'm gonna take a square root on each side. That'll cancel. So now I have x plus 10 is equal to plus and minus 4 because the square root of 16 is positive and negative 4. Let's make that a little bit better there. So I got to do the positive and negative version. So I have x plus 10 equals 4 and x plus 10 equals negative 4. I'm going to subtract 10 on each side. X will equal 6. And then we'll subtract 10 on each side here. X will equal negative 14. Okay, we're going to solve this one by factoring. If you notice, we're already set equal to 0, so we don't have to do anything there. We just got to factor this out. So when I do this, I'm looking for two numbers that will add together to give me the b value, which is 2, and multiply to give me the c value, which is negative 63. So I'm just going to go over here to the side and do, I'll write that their sum has to equal b, and then their product has to equal a times c. In this case, the a value is 1, so it's just a c. So sum has to equal 2, and their product will have to equal negative 63. So when I do this, I got to factor the negative 63. I got to look for factors of negative 63 that'll add up to give me the 2. So if I'm looking at factors of negative 63, I'm thinking 9 and 7. And since my b value is positive, then I want my higher number, which is 9, to be positive. So if I say 9 times negative 7, that equals negative 63. And then let's go ahead and fix that in times a little bit better. So 9 times negative 7 equals negative 63. 9 plus negative 7 will equal positive 2. So when I rewrite this, I just use my positive 9, so x plus 9, and then my negative 7, so x minus 7 equals 0. At this point, I can set either binomial to 0 and get an answer. So I do both of them, so I get both answers. So x plus 9 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 9 on each side. X will equal negative 9. And then over here I have x minus 7 equals 0. I'm going to add 7 to each side. And x will equal positive 7. So that's how you factor and solve by factoring. Okay, on this one we'll use the quadratic formula, which tells us that x will equal negative b plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and it's all over 2a. So first thing I gotta do is figure out what a, b, and c is. Well, to do that, I have to also set equal to 0. And those 2's will cancel out, and I'll have 3x squared minus 14x plus 8 equals 0. So I can determine my a value, which comes from the coefficient here. My b value is from this coefficient, and my c value is from the constant of positive 8. So my a, doesn't look like an a. My a is equal to 3, b is negative 14, and c value is 8. So I can just plug these numbers in. So I'll have x is equal to negative 14, because my b value is negative 14, plus and minus the square root of negative 14 squared minus 4 times my a value of 3 times my c value of 8, and it's all over 2 times 3, because my a value is 3. Okay, so the next step I'm just going to make that a positive 14. Plus and minus the square root. 14 squared is going to be 196. 4 times 3 times 8 is 96. And then 2 times 3 is 6. So then I'll go ahead and next step. I'm going to have positive 14 plus and minus the square root of 196 minus 96 is 100. It's over 6. So now I can just come over here and I want to the right and I'll say x equals 14 plus and minus 10 because square root of 100 is 10. It's over 6. Now I can split them up. I have x is equal to, let's say, 14 plus 10 over 6. And then over here, it'll be 14 minus 10 over 6. So 14 plus 10 is 24 over 6, which will give me 4. So in one case, x will equal 4. Then I have 14 minus 10, which will give us 4 on this side, over 6, which will reduce down to 2/3. So x will equal 2/3. And that's your two answers. Okay, for all of these, you're going to just use the I on your calculator. We'll go over how to do it by hand as well, but you're just going to use I on your calculator to do these. So if I'm adding the 6 and the 4, it's just going to make 10. Then the negative 5 plus just regular I. So negative 5i plus I is going to give you negative 4i. So I'd have 10 minus 4i. Pretty simple. It's just combining like terms. Negative 2 minus 9 is going to give me negative 11. 4 minus, or not 4, 3i minus the positive 4i is going to give me negative I. So I'm just going to have negative 11 minus I. Then on the multiplication, you got to FOIL these out because you're multiplying binomials. So I'm going to have, let's see, I'll do this first one over here, 2 plus 3i times 2 minus 4i. Multiply those together, and I get 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times negative 4i is negative 8i. Then I have now I got to distribute the 3i into this. So 3i times the 2 is going to give me positive 6i. And then 3i times the negative 4i is going to give me negative 12i squared. So now that I got an I squared, that's supposed to be a squared, I squared, if you'll remember, I squared equals negative 1. So I can plug a negative 1 in for that, and I can combine like terms. So I can say 4 and then negative 8i plus 6i is going to give me negative 2i, and then minus 12 times negative 1. 12 times negative 1 is going to give me, I got a negative 12 times a negative 1 is going to give me positive 12. So it's the same as saying 4, I don't really have to write all this out, plus 12. So 4 plus 12 is 16. And then bring down my minus 2i. So I got 16 minus 2i. All right. So then for the next one, don't know why that last part's not wanting to erase, but here we go. There it goes. I have 6 minus 3i times 5 plus 2i. Same thing here. 6 times 5 is going to give me 30. 6 times 2i is going to give me positive 12i. Negative 3i times 5 is negative 15i. The negative 3i times 2i is going to give me negative 6i squared. The I squared also will equal negative 1 still on this one. So I'm going to combine like terms. I have 30, and then 12i minus 15i is going to give me negative 3i. And I have minus 6 times negative 1, which that negative 1 is just going to change the sign of the 6. So I have 30 minus 3i plus 6. 30 plus 6 is 36. And I bring down my minus 3i. Again, you could have typed all that in on the calculator and it would have gave you the correct answer. Now go ahead and get rid of all this because I don't need it anymore. Well, it's not like I need it for the bottom either. Okay, so we go down here to this. We're going to talk about the graph, which one of these match up. First things first is positive. It's going up, right? So I'm not going to have a negative in front of my A value. So that's going to quickly eliminate C and E. Then if I keep looking at it, This one's got an A value of 4. For it to have an A value of 4, from this point to the next box over, I'd have to go up 4, right? So I'd have to go up to here. It'd be steeper than it is now, so that's not going to work. Okay. As you can see, these ones both have the 0.4, which is how high it goes up on the next block, right? So B or D is good on the A value. They're both positive and they're both 0.4. But then I have to use my vertex form. I have to say, okay, well, if I look at it, y is equal to A times x minus h squared plus k. And specifically, I'm looking at hk for the vertex. Okay, so the main thing I'm checking out here is, well, on this one, I could say, I could look at the y being a -5 and know right off it's going to be d. But then I can also look at, I've got x minus h. So let's just write out what my actual vertex is. My vertex here is going to be 3, -5. So that's going to be 3, -5. So if I plug a 3 in where the h is, if I plug a 3 in here, that's going to be x minus 3. If I plug a -5 in for the k, because k matches up there, right? H is the x value of the vertex, k is the y value of the vertex. So 3, that's going to make it x minus 3, and then -5 out here is going to make it a -5 out here, which matches up with d. So that's it. That's all there is to that. Okay, so this part, it's not too bad. I just got to look at all these things it's asking. The vertex is going to be right here. So if I'm asking for the vertex, it is this point, the turning point on the parabola, which is there. I'm writing that coordinate down. So it is +2, -9. That's where that happens. All right, the x-intercepts are here and here. So at this coordinate, this is -1, 0. This is +5, 0. So I have -1, 0, and then +5, 0 for the other one. The y-intercept is right here. It's where you cross the y-axis. So it's at the point 0, -5. Okay, when it asks for the roots, it's the same as the x-intercepts. Roots are the same as the x-intercepts. So I have them here and here. Well, the coordinates of the roots are the same. The roots would be -1 and +5. But the coordinates of the roots are the same as whatever the x-intercept is. So -1, 0, and then 5, 0. And then the axis of symmetry is the line at which the parabola is going to be symmetric. If you fold it over this line, it'll fold into itself. So you look for the vertex, and it's whatever the x value of the vertex is, it's that entire line. In this case, if you look right here, we already wrote it down. The vertex is at 2, -9. And let's go ahead and fix that negative a little bit. 2, -9. So the axis of symmetry is just going to be x is equal to 2, because that is the equation of the line that is vertical right here. That is the line of x equals 2, because everything on that line, x equals 2.